count on me. You're gonna have a good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Special thanks to James Cameron for lending some 4K equipment to some fellow anti-colonial propagandists.
Two, hello. Check. Check two. Two, hello. I'm here, folks. I'm sorry for the late start. As you can see, I got more pixels. I got more pixels now. Hopefully we got smooth Rob. We have better lighting Rob now. A little bit more professional looking. Unless you're watching it on 480p such as Odane. Which I understand. Should be smoother now. Smoother, better lighting. Better exposure, auto exposure. I feel pretty good about it, honestly. I feel pretty good about this new era. I feel good about it, folks. But with all these changes to the stream, you should take off the unnecessary glasses as part of the total makeover. The glasses are just part of my whole brand now. For better or worse. For better or worse, the glasses are just part of my brand. And I have to just go with it. What this? Trying some new shit here. Now you're too small though, chat. Does it work like this? Is the chat readable like this? Not really. Not really. This is the kind of thing that I could only figure out live, folks, with the chat. Oh, okay. Work on it a little bit more later. That'll do. Okay. Good. The colors. The colors are really poppin'. Fart Party 69. That's right. Hopefully. The lighting is more bisexual than ever now. The lighting of this stream. More bisexual than ever. Okay, but as some of you know, I've talked about my problems with the internet on this computer over the last couple of months. And my solution to this problem was just to never turn off my computer and then it would just work. The Ethernet. I plug in the Ethernet and sometimes it says you're connected but you don't have network access. And it's only flashing yellow on the Ethernet port in my computer. And I just haven't been able to fix it. Sometimes I can get it to work and then I just don't turn my computer off for like weeks. And it works fine. But today, when I plugged in this new camera, the Ethernet port stopped working. And I spent the whole morning trying. This was like 10 a.m. This happened, like when I started my day. And I spent the whole morning trying to fiddle around with it. You have to unplug it and plug it back in and disable the card and enable it and turn it off and turn it on again, just over and over. And eventually it works. That's been my strategy in the past. But it does seem, and I even went out and picked up a new Ethernet cable, and that, I just was like, maybe I just need a fresh cable, and I plugged in a fresh cable, still didn't work. And the eccentric guy down at the computer store kind of talked to me about that describing the symptoms, talking about like the LAN card in the PC is like not getting enough power. So sometimes when it works, it's good, and then you turn off your computer and you turn it back on, and then the power supply gets interrupted and it's not getting enough power. So I did go into the settings on that, and I did turn off the like power saving settings in the Ethernet driver. And there's like power efficient settings, and like there was a turn this device off to in power saving mode thing that I clicked off, then disabled it and enabled it a couple times, and then it seemed to then started working again. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know what the issue is. Regardless, the shit started to work eventually. It started to work. So here I am. Hopefully it's worked. It's permanently going to work now. And I don't know, if I turn off my computer, turn it back on, it probably will stop again. We will see. But this is what I've been doing all morning. I spent the whole from like 10 a.m. to just now doing that. That's all. That's all I've been doing. And I'm going to have my Diet Coke. This is the first ever Diet Coke. This is the first ever Diet Coke in 4K, folks. All it took was unplugging it for 10 seconds. No, Lennon Smash, I unplugged it and replugged it like 50 times, probably. I unplugged it. I replugged it. I take out the cord. I put back the cord. I restart the PC. I restart it. I turn it off. I unplug the power. I plug the power back in. I turn it back on. I disable the driver and I enable it. This is what I've been doing for 3 hours. Anyway, chin chin, folks. First ever 4K Diet Coke. Very exciting, momentous moment here on this program. Chin chin. Hopefully this should fix the lighting problems too. This has been my issue. Oh shit, we're already at 36. No, that's not true. Sorry. That's not true. We're at 1 actually. Let me just go ahead and fix that. Thank you for pointing that out. That would be nice. That would be very nice. Believe me. Believe you me. Unfortunately, it's not the case. Reset that bad boy. And I'm actually going to just, because I did get a subscription earlier, Save changes. Make sure I have that one. That subscription from Bolden. Thank you, Bolden, for the 17 months. Tier 1. That's right. I got a brand new camera courtesy of Box Office Jim. Box Office Jim Cameron shipped me over some new 4K equipment fresh off the set of Avatar. I was able to plug it in. A fellow anti-colonial propagandist. Me and Jim Cameron. Me and Box Office Jim. It would be nothing for Jim Cameron to just sponsor this stream, right? It would be nothing to him. This is the part of my complaints about this kind of left-wing media ecosystem. You know, we're talking about these right-wing guys that are all just like part of the PR arm of the fracking industry, basically. All these fracking billionaires are just like, yeah, I can throw a couple 10 million at one of these media ventures, whatever, just do whatever. It's basically a tax write-off. Surely it can find some subversive billionaire. Certainly there's someone out there. Some subversive Leninist billionaire that's going to be like, oh, this guy's all right. And give it I wouldn't even need 50 million, anything close to that. Just a little bit. And that's basically a tax write-off for them. Right? You just write that right off. Easy. Anyway. I just know one of these days some very wealthy person is going to be watching this. He's going to be like, hey, that sounds like a good deal. That sounds like a good deal. This man shouldn't be dancing for slubs here on twitch.tv. You got to give this guy a regular salary. I heard Steve Bannon is an ML, yeah, from our friends in the MAGA communist movement. The fucking geniuses in the LaRoucheite MAGA communist Pat Sock. They come up with a different name like every month, don't they? They're always like, they've got the movement something different. Even for neolibs, Kurzsag got close to 7 million to push neolib propaganda. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. But it's not surprising. So, kind of the point of my rambling story I was telling about fixing my Ethernet cable. Just got here. It looks like we're streaming in 720p based on Twitch. Oh, that's good. That's very good. Well, the resolution that I'm looking at is 1920 by 1080, but do I need to bump that up to 4096? Oh shit. Is it going to break the stream if I try to do this? Fuck it, I'm just going to try. Ah! Oh my. Oh my, what's this? Hello. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious, where am I? What's going on? Okay, wow, okay. Didn't bump up the old resolution. What's it? What's it now? Now what are we? Now it's now. How are we doing? Now how are we doing? Would it be possible to reach out to Xi Jinping? I wish. I wish.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Lenin, Lenin, Lenin. Lennon takes over the stream.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you for the 200 friend coin. Now I feel like I'm high def. Now I'm like super high def. Right? What about if in browse? Oh no, I'm huge now over here as well. Just huge. Fix that. And now I'm going to be even huger over here as well. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What do we think about this? This is fun. This is a fun streaming experience, right? This is fun. We're doing it live. Listen, I was an hour and a half late starting because of my Ethernet cable. Now I'm figuring out my camera shit live. We're learning together. Yes. I feel this is pretty high def. I feel we're quite high def now. I think we got a lot of pixels. You can like read every single book title behind me. I think we're good now. Oh yeah. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with gas. Not that we do that anymore because the woke mob is preventing us from doing it. We can't cook with gas anymore. With cancel culture how it is. Your glasses have never looked so shiny, eyes never looked so blue. Thank you. Thank you for that strangely personal comment. Party 69. Thank you. This was like when I got a HD channel for the first time as a kid, going from CRT to HD TV. Realized you could see the news anchor's pores. Messed my brain up as a kid because I couldn't even see mine in the mirror. It's crazy watching sports from before the HD switchover, like even stuff from the 2000s, and it just looks like, you know, it just looks like ancient history now. It's like I can't believe we ever even watched sports in non-high def. I do need, for this specific angle though, it seems like the 2005 college football game might as well be 70s NFL. It's really crazy to see the difference. So the only problem with this angle here is that the chat is a little bit hard to read. So I feel like for now, I'm best over here until I can really get a good chat situation on the other angle. I'm going to go a little bit further here. There. And a little bit back. Right there. So chat fits in perfectly. I think this is where we're going to be going with for now. Mr. Biden is going to send masked vaccinated workers to every house in America to haul away our gas stoves. This is real and logistically possible, of course. The gas stove defense force. Dark Brandon is activated. He's going to be sending all these covert squads. You won't even know they're there. You're just going to wake up and like the gas stove is going to be gone. It's just going to be gone without a trace. Okay, I feel this looks pretty good now. He still hasn't stopped to confiscate my meat. I know. It's so funny. My son loves that song, the Nick Let's Go song. Joe Biden wants to take your meat. He always listens to it. And over Christmas, he became obsessed with his Gremlins song. Where did the Gremlins go? He was always singing it. It was always stuck in my head. They, them, Gasto confiscation squads. That's right. You switched me back to 480p on my head. Well, I'm happy. I feel clear. I feel like I have a lot of pixels. I guess it depends on your own individual preference, how you watch this stuff. Robbie had an hour to eat this apple. Why choose to do it?
Some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Dan, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you, Dan Simpson. Bring it on in here, Raiders. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Welcome. How was the raid today, Dan? Sorry, I raided you right at the end yesterday. You actually very rudely went offline the moment I raided. That's kind of suspicious, Dan. What's that about? I thought we were comrades. I thought we were colleagues. I'm trying to raid you and you immediately go offline. What's going on with that? I thought we were cool, but whatever. No, thank you, Dan. I appreciate the raid. How do I look? Dan, you're the big, like, tech expert. You're a big, like, streaming tech expert. Do I think look better? I'm in 4K now. I'm in 4K. I just upgraded the camera situation. How's it looking on your end? It's a lot of Ks. And anyway, to answer your question, Goth Ankle Sinner had an hour to eat this apple. It's because I was busy. In the hour leading up to this, I was busy trying to fix my internet so I could go on and do the stream for you folks. I didn't have time to eat because I was putting your well-being above my well-being. That's why I haven't eaten the apple yet. Okay? I was like, damn, I'm kind of hungry, but you know what? Chat needs me. The people need me. This community needs me. The fans of TRRS and the viewers and the chatters and the members of the Friendship Triangle, they need me. Okay? And that's why I wasn't eating. And I also just often eat apples on camera. For whatever reason, whatever sick reason, people seem to like it. I don't know. Don't ask me to explain it. Don't ask me to explain it. I find it a little odd, but people seem to enjoy it, so I give the people what they want. What kind of apple? It is a Honey Crisp. I'm Honey Crisp Squad. Honey Crisp Gang. See, this was a big point of controversy on this program, is that I did try a Cosmic Crisp for the first time a week ago or so. And I enjoyed it, but I am more of a Honey Crisp fan. But now that I'm eating this, like, I honestly kind of wish I did have a Cosmic Crisp right now. Twitch will do up to 1080p, up to about 6,000 bitrate, and up to 60 FPS. Well, whatever I'm whatever many K I have, it is a higher quality camera. It is a better camera. I had the Logitech, the C something that only went up to 1080p, and now it's like the good one. So there is some kind of difference. People hated my message that Cosmic Crisps aren't that good. I can think of someone else whose message people hated. That's right. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, sir. And it's a lighting thing as well. The resolution, the exposure and the lighting situation, I think, is going to be better. See, again, I love Honeycrisp, but that was a little on the sour side. You know, it was a little on the sour side. No love for the Red Delicious, no. Would you rate the apple? Well, Dan, normally I am a big fan of the Honeycrisp. As people who watch this show know well. Big Honeycrisp fan. I'm going to give that a 6, though. I'm going to give that a 6. They're not sending their best right now. Pink Ladies are good as well. The Cosmic Apples are very good, Lexi. 6 out of 10, that's right. That's correct. I'm kind of wishing it was a Cosmic, frankly. It's got to be a Michigan Honeycrisp. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know about that distinction. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Eating some veggie straws today, folks.
Nedlock, thanks very much for the 27 months of Tier 1. Veggie straws. Nice little snack. I got some chips, actually. I might have to nosh on some potato chips here. Six among all apples was 6 among your standards of Honeycrisps. I'm going to say just like an overall as an apple experience. Giving that one a 6. Decent size, decent crunch, but a little bit too on the sour side. I'll eat a Michigan apple when I'm fucking dead. We're getting some heated words. Heated words are being exchanged here. Have you had a grapple? It's genetically modified apple that tastes like a grape. I have not. It sounds like something that I would enjoy, though. I would like to try a grapple. I would like to try it, but I've never even had the opportunity to try a grapple before. I do like a cotton candy grape. That's a weird kind of a scientific experiment, fruit experiment as well. And I enjoyed that. Never a grapple, though. Tastes like fake grape, like candy grape. Okay, like the sour, like those sour grapes you get in a little bag with like the sour sugar on it. I've not yet tried the cotton candy grapes. They're always like $10 for a small bag. Worth checking out. I don't like it. It's not enough, I think, to crack my regular grape rotation, but definitely just as an experience, as like a food experience. The cotton candy grape, I think, is worth just checking out at least once. Because you eat it and you're like, this damn well does smell like cotton. It tastes like cotton candy. What's up with that? It really does. We got a lot of pixels. A lot of pixels, WizBiz. Yes. That's right. I'm going to have to talk... What would they call about a banana mixed with an orange? I guess the simplest solution would be the Benorange. And Ornana is good. Benorange, yeah. I don't know. We'll workshop it. Those are just two textures that I don't know would mix that well together. Like, would that be a banana that tasted like an orange, like with the banana texture, or would it be an orange that had a banana taste? I don't know if either of those sound appealing to me. As a mostly audio-only viewer, I can really hear all the extra pixels. They sound crisp like apples. See, on topic, nailed it. Thank you, proletariat. Thank you. Good. Good stuff. Imagine an orange that was shaped like and peeled as easy as a banana. That's kind of interesting. That's interesting. That would be a nice little snack for sure. The peeling of the orange. Sometimes you get those really perfectly ripe ones where it's not an issue, but sometimes it's getting juice all over you, you know? Sometimes it's trickier. It's definitely an impediment sometimes to enjoying a nice orange. Oranges really make it too difficult, then your hands are a mess. I do like a nice orange slice. You just do the slices, you know, and bite into those. It reminds you of soccer practice. You get that little nostalgic hit as well. If someone crossed an orange with a banana, I can't even say in Twitch chat what I would do to you. I forgot about the banana controversy. There's a big banana controversy in this community. Maybe I should Dan stir in the pot again. Drama streamer Dan Simpson, stir in the pot again. Divisive. Anyway, I shouldn't chit chat too much longer because I started so late. What I have about 2 hours to stream here. I don't really know what I'm doing. I spent the whole morning trying to fix my internet. I spent the whole fucking morning trying to fix my internet. And I have no clue. No clue what's going on. In a firefight with a Cat 5 cable. Clocking in late and clocking out early. Who are you, me? Listen, say what you will about that guy, but it's the last guy to show up every morning. He's the first guy to leave at the end of the day. I doubt there's any news today. I'm sure I have some shit bookmarked. I got some bookmarks here. There is a new thing of the socialist program with Brian Becker about the hidden history of the Jeju Island uprising and massacre in Korea. That's something I wanted to watch. That's very relevant to this community. There's a couple of geopolitical stories. Yeah. There's a couple of things you can take a look at here. Yeah, the tanks going to Ukraine. I heard World War III is trending. Oh, that's good. You know what? It's kind of an interesting discussion. When I was thinking about what to talk about today, that's kind of one of the things that occurred to me. Are we just on the road to World War III? You know? That's a big, switching from fruit discourse to that. Kind of a big shift. A little bit of a shift. While we're talking about apocalyptic fruit discourse in this community, we can shift gears to that. But, I mean, it seems like it's something that we were talking about the other day. And it's the kind of thing that it's hard to talk about because I don't ever want to be doomer, you know? I'd always want to try to have some sense of revolutionary optimism. Let's ask this question. Or you know what? Let's just keep this simple. Keep it simple, stupid. It's the kind of thing that, like, it's hard to talk about because, yeah, I don't want to be doomer. I want to be optimistic. I want to have revolutionary optimism. But sometimes it does feel like we're just caught up in, like, historical currents that are just completely beyond our control, right? It does feel like that a little bit, doesn't it? It does feel like this is just like where all the roads lead, and that we've been on this path basically, for decades essentially, but every single big major event of the last 30, 40 years has just been like another nail in the coffin confirming it. From like, the Reagan era to the war on terror to Trump to the current situation with Russia and Ukraine and Taiwan and all these other flashpoints, this kind of global conflict, the shifting geopolitical sort of power struggle that's happening right now as the world kind of like starts to shift more towards multipolarity, all the things we've been talking about on this program for like 2 years something, right? It just seems like we are just on this historical path. I was having one of those like shower thoughts where it's like, those ideas that like, okay, so if you were sent back in time, that World War III was going to happen, and you can just like, you try to stop it. Like, well, what could you do realistically? It just feels like we're on there's this path that was just was set in stone, generations ago, basically. And we're just like watching it play out, and we can have maybe some kind of minor little impact on it throughout this process. But it just seems like this kind of global conflict is inevitable. I mean, when you look at just the basic reality of like the Western hegemony and those power structures of the last 400 or 500 years that we learn about when we watch Parenti, when we talk about these things. The power of the colonialists. These are still like in American hegemony, like it's still just the latest face of this like immense, powerful entity that stretches back generations, like through the British Empire and beyond. And the current like American-led version of it is just like a sort of different face. And historically, like the socialist projects have risen up like in defiance of that, and that's been the goal of these movements, of these socialist movements, was to undermine and overthrow that power, through undoing the stranglehold that they have over the third world, providing a different economic system, providing a different, alternative to global finance, this kind of stuff. Like, that's what socialism is. Like that's what the Soviet Union was. That's what
we simply
any modern
use the
socialist
computer
country
to mark up
is.
the size of the account.
On this topic.
Let's see, Dimitri. So just given, I'm going to look at this in one moment, Dimitri. So just given this reality about the Western-led, the power, the imperialists, the Western imperialists, America is the boss, the rules-based international order, whatever you want to call it, the global criminal cartel, basically, that is led by the U.S., but it involves like all these major industries and monopolies in fossil fuels, in defense, weapons manufacturing, and it's the telecoms, the mining, we talk about Canada, the mining companies. It's that, right? It's like, and then you have the political wing, which is what we see in our Western liberal democracy, like in the government. You have the media wing and sort of corporate media. So just kind of given the reality of this like shifting global power that we've been observing on this show and other shows for the last 3 years, and the new challenges led by led by China, and like leading to these alternative development models for these countries in the global south. And that's one of the main things we've been observing on this show, right? For going on, 2.5 years, whatever it is. This shifting geopolitical power balance, and this shift from the unipolar world into the multipolar world. Like we can observe that happening as like scientifically, right? It's not really a matter of opinion or whatever, or ideology. You can observe these forces playing out. And just the question we have to ask ourselves when we're talking about World War III is the United States going to just hand over power willingly? Are they going to say, well, there's these forces beyond our control. It's not our century anymore. It's the Chinese century. Like we were pointing out in the videos we were watching tomorrow, these countries in the global south, I guess they're just choosing this alternative development model. They're choosing these different choices and different paths. Are they just going to say, well, that's what's happening and we have to learn how to share power? Or are they going to go to option B, which is the same? You can observe, again, you observe scientifically, not ideologically driven, but scientifically, just observing how they have wielded power for the last 70 years. Are these folks just going to hand over power willingly? And the answer is no. Right? It is. It just is. This is the main thing we've been paying attention to in this community and on this show for over 2 years, right? They're not going to just hand over power. So that's just a reality. That's just like scientifically observing something playing out in reality. It's not like about ideology, or it's not about what I want to happen or what I don't want to happen. This just seems like just an inevitability. We're on this path. We're on this path towards a global conflict. It would be nice if it didn't happen. Again, I don't want to be doomer, or I don't want to be pessimistic. I want to have revolutionary optimism, but it just seems like historically we are on this path. We look at all the parallels from the 20s and 30s from 100 years ago, and it's all the same conditions are arising for this exact kind of global conflict to happen. So I think that's kind of my inescapable conclusion about this. It's not that like we want terrible things to happen, but it just seems like historically we are on this path to a sort of global conflict. It could be the final global conflict, and probably will be. And I think we should be able to talk about it and analyze it. And we should obviously oppose it as well. We don't want war. We don't want conflict. But us as individuals, with the small amount of power that we have, I mean, it just feels like the path has been set. The path was set a long time ago, and there's not much we can really do to avert it. There's quotes from Mao about this that I want to look at, and our friend Dimitri sends us something from Lesordo there. Let's check out some of this stuff. I want to make sure I get this quote right. I don't want to try and do it from memory here. That's just a recipe for disaster. I'm trying to find the Mao quote. Maybe someone can help me find it. But there's a quote from Mao about the inevitability of the Third World War, and talked about how socialism was born out of the First World War. After the Second World War, it came to China, and it came to China and Southeast Asia and these other countries. And basically the idea is that after it's going to take World War III for finally this global socialism to emerge. Let's read this Lesordo quote from Dimitri. We went to just heavy stuff right away, right from Apple Discourse right into this. But that's what this program is about. Is it this that I want? Let me just fix this here. Where did you go, chat? Star Trek didn't predict China bringing us global socialism without war, though. No, I mean Star Trek did posit this same analysis that it was going to take World War III for their utopian socialism to emerge. So whether they did, China wasn't really part of that equation in the timeline, but they did predict that. When you use a materialist geopolitical analysis, you start to see chapters playing out in real time. First was Syria, now it's Ukraine. What's next in this new era of multipolarity? And it's like the answer seems like Taiwan. Like, unless we've talked lately about how China has tried to avoid rising to the provocations in the way that Russia has, and hasn't taken the bait on Taiwan. But as I was saying the other day, it does feel like only a matter of time until that conflict, with the U.S. and, the U.S.-led sort of international hegemony poking and prodding, just as they did in Ukraine for years. They're doing it in Taiwan right now, and the question is just about when that is going to spiral into the real conflict that they're kind of trying to provoke. Anyway, here's the quote from Lasorda. This is from 2017, according to Dimitri. So it says, Europe is not... And this is in response to Germany now sending these tanks to Ukraine. Europe is not the same as the USA. We must not forget that in Germany and in Italy there are US military bases. Italy is not a completely sovereign state. There are military bases with atomic weapons completely controlled by Washington. In other words, a country like Italy, and the same applies to Germany, runs the risk of being dragged into war by Washington's choices. If the US bombed Moscow, Russia would respond. And now, speaking as an Italian, I don't like the idea of being cannon fodder for US imperialism. What does this risk of a third world war look like? We need to think concretely. The risk is not that Merkel will wage war against Washington or that Italy will do so. The great risk is that the US will declare war on Russia or on China or on both, and that the US will try to pit Germany, Italy, France, and other European countries against China and Russia. In other words, in Europe it is necessary to carry out the struggle for peace, not only because peace is a great cause, but because we must defend the independence of Italy and Germany against US imperialism. It does a little bit seem like that is precisely what is continuing to happen, doesn't it? It certainly does seem like that. Taiwan does seem to be next, but China is more reserved and has more means to solve the issue without conflict. I couldn't imagine even these war hawks thinking war with China would be good for them, and it looks like they'll try anyway. Well, that's been the thing that we've been talking about, right? Like, I don't think it's possible for the U.S. to win such a war. But I think, like, the people that have been wielding the levers of power on this big, Leviathan, this massive Leviathan for, generations, it's not even that they could win, but that they would rather destroy everything than give up anything. That's the kind of sick, nihilistic death drive that's animating our imperialist overlords. Let me just give me one moment here, folks. Reading some quotes from Deng Xiaoping here. This is there's this great Washington Post interview with Deng from 1980 called a third world war is inevitable, and I'm trying to find that specific like quote. Okay, here's the quote from Deng. Thanks for bearing with me there, folks, while I'm just like sitting here reading on camera. So here's the last subject. Here's in this interview. This is the Washington Post interview with our boy, Deng Xiaoping. Oh, did I fucking lose it? Okay, here it is. Thank you for bearing with me here. So Deng says, the question is, here's what I call a convincing answer, Mr. Deng. I now can face the last subject, the Third World War, or better, what you Chinese define as the inevitability of the Third World War. So since China now, as a result of Deng's economic reforms, which he talks about at length in this interview, really, really interesting actually, as a result of those economic reforms that Deng brought in, that has led directly, there's a direct line between Deng's economic reforms in 1980, around the time that he was giving this interview, and China's current position as leader of this like shifting geopolitical movement, taking the power away from Western imperialism and Western hegemony, and finally starting to wrestle that away from them. That's a direct result of Deng's economic reforms that were made at that time. That took a lot of criticism at the time. It took a lot of criticism throughout the 80s during this process, during this multi-decade process of like opening up the economy to foreign capital, and in using this mode of production to build the productive forces, like as they say. Took a lot of criticism, and a lot of people, I think, didn't believe in this process. A lot of people thought that they had become just another kind of comprador nation of the West, a comprador nation of the United States, that were helping to uphold U.S. hegemony and not countering it. I think that was generally what a lot of socialists believe, especially in the West. Over that period. Now, as we've talked about endlessly on the show, things are a little bit different now that we're seeing decades later the result of these decisions, and we're starting to see the logic of these decisions starting to play out in real time on this global level. And it's kind of saying, if you pay attention to what they were saying at this time, you kind of start to get the impression, oh, okay, maybe they did know a little bit what they were doing. Like they really had a specific plan in mind there, and they're not even finished the plan. They're only halfway through this path that they're kind of walking. But this was the specific outcome that they were kind of having in mind, and we're seeing it right now in real time playing out. And we've been talking about it on the show, and we're seeing the flashpoints in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, in Xinjiang, in Tibet. We hear about Tibet still. We're hearing about that more and more because of this shift that's happening, because we understand what imperialists are doing when they're complaining about human rights in another country. It's not because they've grown this sense of morality, or they all of a sudden care about human suffering or human rights, but it's because they recognize this shift that's happening. That's why that media propaganda campaign has shifted into overdrive over the last couple of years. And a lot of people, again, even on the left, still have gotten sucked into it, very unfortunately, in my opinion. And a lot of people on the left, again, very unfortunately, are still holding on to these ideas about China that were developed in the 80s without taking in the context of like why they made these decisions, seeing the result of it. There's still people on the West that are refuse to give them the benefit of the doubt, and don't just refuse to believe that they're actually engaged in this process of building socialism. But as we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, if we're talking about building socialism as one of its primary elements, is taking power away from Western hegemony and from the old colonialist powers, which are still in charge of global geopolitics today. That is what they're doing. So I think it's undeniable that they are building socialism in that sense. So I think, given the fact that Deng has been proven right about so many of these things, not that Deng was perfect either, as no great leader has been of any great nation. Certainly there was mistakes made as well there as that during, especially in foreign policy and other things like this that we can criticize endlessly. But I think overall we see this trend that has been a direct result of these economic decisions. So on this subject of World War III, the Third World War, what you Chinese define as the inevitability of the Third World War. So here's what Deng said. Here's what our boy Deng Xiaoping said about this very subject in 1980 when these reforms were being enacted, which contributed to us being on the very path that we're on right now. Here's what he said. He said, the war is inevitable because the superpowers exist and because their imperialism exists. And the inevitability of war isn't just a view of the Chinese. Many people in the world are convinced that the war will break out in the 80s. Obviously, not correct there. The next 10 years are very, very dangerous. They're frightful. We should never forget this fact because only if we don't forget this fact, and this was in the collapsing stages of the Soviet Union, so that's probably contributed a lot to why they thought that. We should never forget this fact because only if we don't forget this fact may we adopt measures and policies to postpone the outbreak. But when I say measures and policies, I don't mean the chatters about peace and détente. It is since the end of the Second World War that the people in the West keep talking about peace and détente, and so does the Soviet Union. But where is the peace? Where is the détente? Year by year, if not day by day, the hotspots increase. The factors which will drive to the Third World War, and those people go on chatting about peace and détente. The interviewer says the fact is that most of the people don't believe or don't want to believe that the war will break out, in Europe especially. Deng says they deceive themselves with hoping that the war might be avoided, so they shut their eyes. They swallow the toad, which is one of the elements driving to the war, this blindness, this submissiveness, this suppleness. Before the Second World War, it became famous with the word appeasement. It was when Chamberlain and Daladier advocated appeasement towards Hitler. Today, some countries in Europe and also in other parts of the world behave exactly like Chamberlain and Daladier at the end of the 30s. But what did their expectation turn out to be? Did their appeasement put the war off, or did it move the war forward? This new appeasement only serves to weaken more and more the West, Europe. The Soviets know it. Because of this, they encourage it. Because of this, they become more and more arrogant. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here when he asks what are the hotspots that could lead up to the war today. Again, a lot of this analysis has been shifted because of the collapse of the Soviet Union. Swallow the toad is a dope saying. Multipolarity can prevent a world war, but will it develop in time? Well, I think that's the kind of contradiction, or maybe you might even call it a dialectic, heroic skeleton, that we're kind of talking about. I don't think multipolarity can prevent a world war, because I think ultimately multipolarity is going to be the cause of the Third World War. That's the cause, you know? It doesn't mean we don't need to fight for it, or we shouldn't advocate for it, because I think we should. I think I made my feelings pretty clear about that. But, you know, I think ultimately that's going to be the cause, because the United States, like the imperialist powers, the United States is the boss of this global cartel, right? But the imperialist powers are just not going to allow this shift to multipolarity to happen without conflict, you know? Parallels World War I in that respect. Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, multipolarity is a step in the direction of World War. Yeah, so that's what I mean though. The inevitability of it, the absolute inevitability of it. The cause will be the U.S. resisting multipolarity. Yeah, that's right. It just seems so inevitable, and I guess that's part of what the analysis of Russia and Ukraine is, that, like, you know, like we said, they've been trying to provoke, they've been poking and prodding for like now decades in that area. And we see Russia finally saying like, all right, well, just calling the West on their bluff. Like, if you really want this is the conflict that you want, then we're going to give it to you. And, you know, setting these events in motion. And that's the question, is when the next flashpoint is going to be, and whether it's going to be in Taiwan or elsewhere. But it's been obvious for a while now that the imperialists are trying to provoke this conflict with China as well. And that's another thing about Deng's reforms, though, is that they're so economically intertwined with Europe and with America, the West, totally by design, that complicates that matter as well. It complicates it a lot. Multipolarity could prevent World War III, but it's definitely not guaranteed to do so. Will probably provide more of a winning chance to the bloc opposing the imperial bloc. Well, yeah, we can take a look at more of these quotes here. But yeah, then we can take a look at some of the current stories that are happening right now in Ukraine that we can kind of point to. Just looking at a couple more of these quotes to see if there's anything else worth looking at. They were really bitter enemies with the Soviet Union at this time. His analysis about this as well is really interesting, though. This is something we talk about often as well. In the way that, like, you know, Stalin was, you know, when Stalin died and the Khrushchev era began, they really, as Stalin predicted, they heaped dirt on his grave, or whatever the exact phrasing was. And you had the famous Khrushchev speech, and they rejected Stalin, and they rejected that whole period. And people around the West kind of agreed with that and went along with it. And Stalin has become this kind of like toxic figure that you could never possibly support. And that's another thing about the Deng Xiaoping era, is that when they took over, they said specifically, we're not going to do to Mao what Khrushchev did to Stalin. You know, we acknowledge that mistakes happened, that it wasn't all perfect, but we also acknowledge that he was a great leader and a great member of our movement and our party, and we're going to continue upholding that. And he says the same thing about Stalin here. He says, we think that Stalin's merits and contributions to the revolution exceed his mistakes. Using our Chinese habit, the grades for Stalin are 30% for his mistakes and 70% for his merits. Also, Chairman Mao used to say so, and after the 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party expressed a very clear evaluation of Stalin. In fact, we said we would always regard Stalin's works as classical works in the international communist movement. You know, we're also aware of the mistakes committed by Stalin toward the Chinese Revolution, when after the Second World War there was a rupture between the Chinese Communist Party and the Kuomintang, and we engaged in the liberation of war. Stalin was against us. Yet not even this ever changed our views on him. And then they get into bickering about Stalin and Khrushchev. But I think that's really interesting as well. And that's why I think, you know, when we talk about socialism and the role that socialism has played in this taking power away from this kind of international cartel, I think that's been one of the big, the propaganda coups about anti-communist propaganda coups, the whole Stalin issue, and how it made everyone so ideologically confused, turning Stalin into such a toxic figure, where you can be like, I'm a socialist and I support, you know, creating socialism in my society, but I must, in an effort to be kind of taken seriously, reject the figure who is essentially the most successful socialist leader in history, who like, regardless of whatever mistakes happened or bad things that did happen, with the specific context of being under siege and in a war basically for its entire existence, still did give the most to defeat fascism in World War II, still kept this project like afloat for like an entire generation against all odds, against all opposition, regardless of the mistakes they made. I think that's just an incredible accomplishment that we should be able to unapologetically acknowledge that amazing accomplishment, you know. But because of this like the anti-communist propaganda coup basically that took place after his death, and the whole Khrushchev speech, and how much of that is truth and how much of it was lies, and how much like academia has been influenced by this kind of like anti-communism, or social democrats or anarchists or liberals or whatever. It makes it so confusing, and it makes it impossible to talk about socialism accurately. And it gives people this kind of like completely incoherent ideology in a way when they say, yeah, I'm a socialist. Of course I support socialism. I support communism. But then people say, well, you don't like Stalin, right? Do you? And they say, no, of course not. I would never. And it's like, you sound like an asshole now. You sound like an asshole. You sound like you have an incoherent ideology. You know, that's why this propaganda exists. That's why we're not allowed to have just like a critical discussion about Stalin and the accomplishments of the Soviet Union and what they accomplished and the mistakes that happened and the violence that happened and the bureaucracy or whatever. We should still be able to talk about it, though, without being decried as being Stalinist. You know, that's the slur basically that you throw around for anyone that upholds the Soviet Union or upholds these policies, or suggests that when the Soviet Union was in Lithuania or was in Yugoslavia or in Czechoslovakia or in Hungary, or all these places, it was in fact a good thing. It was a good thing that they were there. It was not Soviet imperialism. It was just not another form of colonialism that the Soviets were doing. No, they were bringing a significantly higher living standard to these civilizations, even while they were under threat. They were helping defeat fascism. They were the partisans in these countries that defeated the fascists in Greece, in Italy also, and elsewhere, in France. And it was actually a good thing. It was a noble mission. It was a beautiful mission that they were engaged in. Not only trying to bring a higher living standard to the people in these places, but trying to defeat the massively, immensely powerful colonialist and imperialist powers, you know? And that was actually a good thing that we should support and be proud of. You should be proud of being part of that tradition. You shouldn't be ashamed of that tradition. You can't say like, oh, I'm a socialist, I'm a leftist, but I reject that entire tradition of trying to bring socialism to these countries. That's incoherent. It is totally incoherent. No, of course they brought a higher living standard. As Johnny, like as we saw, like after the collapse of the Soviet Union, which I've talked about many times as a total historical fucking disaster, in terms of human rights and in terms of living standards. You know, you can measure it there. You can measure the massive quality of increase in quality of life that was taken away following the collapse of the Soviet Union. So this is why, you know, I think we need to be able to talk about this stuff. We don't need to be weird about it. You know, I don't think we need to be weird about it or alienating. I guess that's the problem, though. People say, well, you can't talk about Stalin. It's alienating to people because people think he's just as bad as Hitler. You can't talk about, Korea. You can't talk about North Korea or suggest you support that. That's just too alienating because people are they know beyond a shadow of a doubt how evil and terrible these places are. But like, I don't believe in giving into this kind of idea, this framing. You know, if this is the project that we're part of, if this is the political tradition that we're part of, we should be proud of that. What's wrong with that? You know? And every country around the world, whether it's North Korea or Cuba or China or any country that's engaged in like building socialism, or whatever on the path that they are, we need to support that. We need to be part of. We need to be in solidarity with those people because they're fighting against these immense odds, against the most powerful force like in human history. These massively powerful colonialist countries. You know, and it takes bravery and courage to engage in a multi-generational process of trying to carve out a different sort of system with these imperialist countries trying to destroy you every step of the way through economic sanctions, through blockades, through invasions, coups, propaganda, whatever it is. You know, I think that's incredible and courageous and something that we should be proud of and something we should support, not something that we should shy away from. And, you know, it's not our problem if people are brainwashed by Western propaganda. I don't think we should have to change our analysis or change our language to make people more comfortable. As we've talked about on this show before, I think the fact that we don't do that in this community has been really like eye-opening for people that have joined this community. And it's been a something that is a really positive thing for people that have found their way here for that exact reason. You know? So it doesn't matter to me whether it's alienating. I think it's correct. It's the correct analysis of these kinds of historical situations and these geopolitical situations, and we shouldn't shy away from that. Authoritarian is a useless word to label someone when in the Imperial Core you have zero choice but to be part of the machine that lets people die on the street. Seems pretty authoritarian that we can't make that decision. It's the thing that we talked about in that I did that TikTok or Google YouTube short or whatever it was. All this bullshit about the freedom of assembly and our beautiful, precious Western liberal democracies and voting and our precious free speech is all illusory. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion because it doesn't mean anything. We don't actually have any power to do anything. We can talk about it all we want, but we don't have power to change anything. And the people that do have the power to change things get found in like burned out cars, or they get beaten by the police. or they get disappeared, or they get framed up, or whatever. You know? And I was saying as well, it's like when it comes to free speech and free press, we don't have a free press. We can't, as if you read Lenin about the capitalist press, you know that if you have a capitalist press, if you live in a capitalist country, you don't actually have a free press. No matter the fact that I have the ability to log in here on Twitch and talk about this stuff, we don't have a free press. Our press is owned by capitalists. Our press is owned by the very powerful interests that run our whole society, you know? It's the power, this imperialist power, right? You've got the political wing, and you have different factions within that political wing of the imperialist Western hegemony. And there's maybe debate allowed between the liberal wing and the reactionary wing, the progressive wing of the imperialist capitalism and the reactionary wing. There's debate that plays out in the political world, in the media world, but ultimately there's the unchecked power of these massive private conglomerates is just part and parcel of the whole system, and that continues unabated no matter what debate we have, no matter who we vote for, no matter what protests we go to, no matter what city council meetings we attend, no matter what phone calls we make or petitions we sign. We can't do anything to change that. So that's all of these things, all these precious little rights, as we claim to have them, are just all completely illusory because they don't do anything. They give us a kind of sense of personal catharsis, right? Because we are participating in the democratic process. We're participating in the marketplace of ideas. Ultimately, that's meaningless, though, when it comes to where the actual power lies in our culture and whether we have the ability to claw that back or not. I told my partner on our second date that I've read Stalin, and she didn't run away. She had no idea Stalin wrote anything. Most people don't. No, of course, Moss. He's just like a thug, right? Like a gangster. Made important contributions to socialist theory. You know, which we're not allowed to discuss or talk about or uphold. Yeah, Lana, I'm kind of on one here. Lana, do I look better? I got more pixels now. How are we looking? The colors are popping a bit more, I think, as well. Capitalism, including socialism, European social democracy only works due to exploitation. Socialism actually works despite not doing the same horrific practices and, in fact, being the victim of wealth extraction, literal theft, and other attacks by the West. Yeah, and that's the thing. We need to be proud of that. We need to uphold that and be in solidarity with people that are trying to build that, and not suggest that anytime, whether it's the Soviet Union in the past or whether in the Stalin era or whether it's China today, when they're making these efforts to build this on a global level, it's not for us to hold the opinion of they're just doing colonialism. It's the same thing. They're imperialist. They're a colonialist. They're just doing the same thing. They're a state. We have to be against that. It's just the most meaningless analysis, you know, and it's cowardly. It's cowardly that we and it's a way for people to kind of position themselves to support the status quo while kind of positioning themselves as if they oppose it, you know. If you support overthrowing the current status quo in our culture, you need to support this global power shift that's happening right now, that's being led by China. That's the number one contradiction of our time, and that's what's putting us on the path to World War III, right? Because the more that this shift happens, the more the U.S. and the Western capitalist powers are going to lash out. That's why I feel like we are kind of on an inevitable path towards global conflict and World War III. Perhaps the final conflict that, as some have predicted, will lead to the expansion of socialism throughout the world. But sometimes it just seems inevitable that we have to go through that calamity before we get to this moment. This is a generational process that we're not going to see the end of, you know? Let's be honest about that as well. We're not going to see the end of it. Or highly unlikely that we will. I know Lenin kind of said the same thing when he was hanging out in Switzerland in 1917, so maybe I'm wrong about that. I would love to be wrong about it, but, you know, it's unlikely. War is always the highest form of struggle for resolving contradictions when they've developed to a certain stage. Between classes, nations, states, or political groups. It has existed ever since the emergence of private property and classes. Yeah. That's right. Here's the Mao quote that I was looking for. I think I got kind of sidetracked with this Deng interview. The Deng interview is very interesting, but it's colored a lot by their relationship with the Soviet Union at the time in 1980 when the interview took place. Here's the quote from Mao, though, that I was referencing at the beginning, okay? Where did you go? It says people all over the world are now discussing whether a third world war will break out. On this question, too, we must be mentally prepared and do some analysis. We stand firmly for peace and against war. However, if the imperialists insist on unleashing another war, we should not be afraid of it. Our attitude on this question is the same as our attitude towards any disturbance. First, we are against it. Second, if we are not afraid of it. There's something kind of beautiful about that, isn't there? I think that's something we should remember. Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't even have the quote on the screen. First, we're against it. Second, we're not afraid of it. Let's remember that one, okay? That's important. And here's the main thing that I wanted to get to. The First World War was followed by the birth of the Soviet Union with a population of 200 million. The Second World War was followed by the emergence of the socialist camp with a combined population of 900 million. If the imperialists insist on launching a third world war, it is certain that several hundred million more will turn to socialism, that there will not be much room left on earth for the imperialists. It is also likely that the whole structure of imperialism will utterly collapse. I think that's so interesting to pay attention to Mao's analysis of this, given China's role in leading to this global power struggle that we're witnessing play out in real time right now. You know? I think that's really, really interesting. When you consider what we've been talking about, how this shift towards multipolarity is what's going to lead to this final conflict that feels inevitable. You know? But I think when we talk about this subject, this is the quote we need to really keep in mind. You know, that sums up that whole point. Our attitude on this question is the same as our attitude towards any disturbance. First, we're against it. Second, we are not afraid of it. I think that's what our stance has to be as socialists today in 2023, you know, in the West. We got to have the same stance. We got to harden our hearts, you know? Like I've been talking about before, like this whole Ukraine-Russia war has been so instructive about how this is going to play out and how difficult it was to speak out about this and how in lockstep the media got, and all our liberal friends and all our socialist friends and all our leftist friends and all our social democrat friends and all our anarchist friends, and how in lockstep all these people were. And how this is only a trial run. The Russian-Ukraine conflict is only a trial run. When further conflict breaks out, whether Taiwan is the flashpoint or whatever it's going to be, you know, it's going to be much more. It's going to be like what we've been experiencing over the last year, but, you know, to an exponentially increased degree. And we need to be ready for that. We need to be ready to to hold the line, to maintain the correct analysis at this time. You know, it's not going to be easy. That's why we need each other, though. That's why we need to have community around this. That's why we need to not be afraid to speak up about it. So other people that are questioning this stuff will know that they're not alone. They're not crazy for believing these things, you know? Sometimes it can feel like that, right? If you haven't found communities that advocate this kind of viewpoint or this kind of analysis, and you look around at your Facebook news feed, you go home to talk to your parents, you see what your high school friends are saying about, you see what the journalists and the activists that you follow are saying about it, and you're like, am I crazy? Am I crazy for being against this? It feels like it, right? It feels like it. That's why we need to keep speaking out. That's why we need to hold the line and maintain this analysis, no matter how difficult it gets. Really wish there was a seriously organized party with these principles. Well, this is the issue, right? I mean, there are in the global south. There is, like, in China. It's that's been the big contradiction here, though, is that the parties that do have this correct analysis about the foreign policy aspects are often, they're socially reactionary, as we've seen within the Communist Party of Canada. Seems to be kind of like a club that protects the people at the top, and, like, you know, we saw the whole controversy over that, and not taking like a shitty abusive behavior in their ranks seriously, and not punishing people for engaging in this kind of stuff. That's the thing. It's like we have parties that have the correct analysis, but are poorly organized, or filled with fucking this kind of sects of folks that are not creating an inclusive environment to grow the message and to grow the movement. Everything is illusory except power, the revolutionary people reply. That's a good one. The imperialist nature of the Western left is very intentional. There's no doubt about that. So let's take a look at the kind of stories that are animating this today. Like we talked about Ukraine maybe being the flashpoint. Ukraine wasn't the first thing to happen. You know, again, we're talking about, this article is so fucking dystopian. It's absolutely insane. You know, whether we're on this kind of unavoidable path towards global conflict, World War III, what was the flashpoint? Was it Ukraine? I think Ukraine was just the next step, right? You can go back, though. There's been a domino sequence from the collapse of the Soviet Union to the destruction and humiliation of Russia to September 11th, the war on terror, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, now Ukraine, right? It's just these series of dominoes that are falling. You can go back as long as you want. You can go to the end of World War II, and you can start counting the dominoes right at the very end of World War II. NATO expansion, Yugoslavia. It doesn't matter where you start from. It's just Ukraine is another domino to fall. Where we're on this path towards global conflict. And we talk about when the next one's going to be. Is it going to be Taiwan? What? We don't know. For a while, it looked like Cuba was going to be that kind of a domino or a flashpoint. And it didn't end up working out like that. Ben Norton covered an article by Emmanuel Todd about World War III having already started. Yeah, I mean, it's almost even like World War II just never stopped, right? Because immediately after World War II, it was shifted into the Cold War. And the Cold War wasn't cold. It was cold between specifically the U.S. and the Soviet Union. It was certainly not cold for people in Latin America and in Southeast Asia, who got murdered by the tens and millions and disappeared and tortured and repressed. It wasn't cold for them. So it is almost in a way as if this conflict it's just been this ongoing conflict for decades. And we've just been, we grew up in the empire. We're empire babies. So we've just been insulated from this. We're able to call it the Cold War because for us it was cold. We've had probably the best standard for most people. Like if you grew up in poverty, it's a different thing. Or if you're from a kind of a marginalized community, it's a different thing. But for many of us, I include myself in that, we grew up in one of the highest living standards like ever attainable to human beings, this kind of post-war Western society that we created after the war. The middle class, growing up in the suburbs, that kind of thing. So that's it. Did World War III already start, or did World War II just never end? Or did World War II maybe end with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and now we're in the next phase? I don't know. It's forever war. It is our economic model. That's right. That is our economic model. But this is what's kicking off some of these discussions. The idea that Germany is sending tanks to Ukraine. And again, we read that Lasordo quote, how Germany is completely at the mercy of the United States. The Germany is still a militarily occupied country that doesn't really have much autonomy in this kind of case, as we've seen with them backing the U.S. endlessly, despite it having massive, terrible consequences for their own energy prices and their own society, you know? So this is the story. The U.S. plans to send M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, officials said, a big step in arming Kiev in its efforts to seize back territory from Russia. So, I mean, the obvious thing to point out about this is that, like, that's how fucking backwards this is, which is that, you know, folks like me, like everyone in this community, people that have been against this conflict from moment one, from before it broke out, and have been against it from moment one. I've been trying to advocate towards ending it from moment one. That's what I've been doing. That's what you folks have been doing. And what do we get called? Tankies, right? We get that's the sick irony of the way this discourse has been. Those damn tankies that want to talk about détente, they want to talk about ending the conflict, they want to talk about a ceasefire. And now we've got literally our liberal friends, our anarchist friends, our leftist friends, our social democrats, our left communists, whatever. They're all now in agreement of this strategy of, yeah, we need to send more M1 Abrams tanks into Ukraine. And the people that are against this are the tankies. How does that make sense? Make that make sense. These people are literally, this is like they're, as we saw at Davos the other day, the whole World Economic Forum stuff. More weapons, more conflict is the road to peace in Ukraine. That's what they think, right? They're the peaceful humanitarians supporting the only path available, right? More weapons, more conflict, more tanks, more drones, more guns, more CIA training, right? That's the path to peace, according to all these folks, who across a wide ideological spectrum that all seem to be in agreement about this. That's the way towards peace. And folks like us, like you and me, who have been advocating against this from moment one, are called derogatorily called tankies for saying, no, I don't think we should send tanks to Ukraine. No, I don't think we should make a strategic partnership with NATO. I know that's controversial on the left. Now it's a big controversial opinion on the left. No, I don't think we should partner up with NATO. No, we should not give NATO our moral support on this one. No, we should not. No, we should not trust the imperialists this one time. No, we should not. No, we should not support this endless, once again, yet another endless money printing machine to the weapons manufacturers and the military industrial complex. I thought this was pretty basic stuff. I thought this was like day one stuff if you're going to be a socialist, but apparently not. Apparently it's very, very controversial, you know? And what do you get when you say this? No, I'm against NATO. No, I'm against this proxy war. No, I don't think we should arm and train fascist militias in Ukraine. No, I don't think we should. What do they say you are? Tankies. No, I don't think we should send tanks to these groups. Tanky. That's how fucking backwards this is. And the fucking daily costs. And I know, like, for many of us that walked this kind of liberal path at one point, you know, that however you ended up in the socialist camp, whatever path you got there, for many people, if you follow American politics and you were like progressive or whatever, daily cost was a big part about that around the Obama era, you know? And it's just so bizarre, I guess, all these years later, talking about this and seeing them frame it explicitly like this. Saying the tankies have a rough one as Ukraine's allies open the spigot. Think about how completely backwards that is. They're just coming right out and saying it. We're sending tanks to Ukraine to own who? The tankies. The tankies, who they're pointing out in this image here, hold up signs that say "Stop aid to Ukraine," say "Stop the end of the U.S. blockade to Cuba," "Feed the people, not the Pentagon." These are the signs in this quote that this progressive liberal website is using to smear, anti-imperialist activists or left-wing activists. The tankies have a rough one because now Germany is sending M1 tanks to Russia. And again, talk about the same historical trends playing out. Once again, we've got Germany fighting Russia right? And we support this, and this time we're like, no, but this time it's good. I know last time it was bad, but this time it's good. This time it's good. This time we need to support it. You know, it's fucking absurd. If they want to use tankies so loosely to their ends, I guess it's fair game to call them Nazis. Well, I just always called them the dronies, right? They're the dronies. These people, no one loves and fetishizes violence and death more than these liberals, right? But they do it in this civilized way. Of course, we're anti-war. They want to get the progressive pat on the head for being so, you know, caring about human rights and authoritarianism and being anti-war, while endlessly supporting, you know, the drone bombings of weddings and funerals and hospitals, supporting imperialism. Like, they are enthusiastic supporters of imperialism while having this kind of progressive veneer, you know? These people fetishize and love violence more than anyone. And then, as always, it's projection when they accuse others of feeling the same way. It's projection, as it always is. Merkel openly saying that the Minsk agreements were a scam to buy time so that they could build up Ukraine's military is stunning. In retrospect, Putin seems like an overly naive guy compared to these wolves. I mean, this is the reality, and we argue about this sometimes. You know, I don't want to support terrible things that are going on that inevitably happen in any conflict, when civilians being killed, you know, sexual assaults that inevitably happen, horrifying refugee crises, you know, horrifying things. I don't want to support that, but that's the reality, is that there has been this provocation for the last at least 10 years, and you can go back even further to this, you know, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and you can go back even further than that to the Cold War, the provocations. And there's people that have been living in these regions, these like ethnic Russians that have been getting shelled for the last 10 years. We saw this when, on the day that Russia officially declared support for these breakaway republics, like the day before the actual invasion started. We watched on this program footage of people in these places being like, it's about fucking time. Like, where have you been? Where have you been this whole time? We've been in a war here for the last decade. Why is this just happening now? Like, that's what people were saying, you know? That's what people were saying in these communities and societies that have been under siege that entire time. And now they're just openly admitting that all the ceasefires and the Minsk agreements, that was all just bullshit. That was all just to buy time. We saw Lindsey Graham and John McCain in that clip we watched, like in 2016 or 17 or whenever it was, talking to those Azov guys. We take the fight to the Russians, right? We're going to give you whatever you need. This is like 2017. We're going to give you whatever you need. Take the fight to the Russians. Like, it's not fucking rock. It's not a mystery what's going on here. Like, all this stuff is available for anyone to look at. And then people will take this knowledge, and as I was saying the other day, like, we'll still refer to it as the illegal, unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Like, that's always the caveat. We can't just talk about the invasion of Ukraine. It's the illegal, unprovoked. How much do we always hear that? The unprovoked invasion. Right? It's fucking preposterous. Even Chomsky has been good on this, as squishy he has been on some of these issues through the years. He was crystal clear on this. If it was unprovoked, they wouldn't feel the need to say unprovoked invasion every single time. That's as simple as it can be broken down to. If it really was unprovoked, they would not feel the need to always add that caveat onto the description of what's going on. Yeah, we're so gung-ho about stopping some genocide somewhere, whether it's happening or not. 14,000 dead in 8 years. No one sheds a tear. Of course. Not in the Donbass, certainly not in Yemen, not in Palestine. Right? That's how much we care about stopping these genocides from happening. I have a warrant out for my arrest. Sorry to hear that, Gaming Lizard. Very unfortunate. Chomsky is becoming more anti-imperialist the older he gets. It's wild. Never thought he would make a book with VJ. Yeah, that's one cool thing, you know, that we have seen. One, I think, important thing about VJ working with him, too, as well on this. By the way, on that subject, Well, let me actually just confirm right now. On that subject, I just confirmed it right now. I'll wait to get final confirmation. But Vijay Prashad, folks, I talked to him once on this program, didn't I? Vijay Prashad, this Friday, January, what month is it? January 27th, 3 p.m. Eastern, will be, unless I waited too long to reply to this. So, should be fine, but this Friday, Vijay Prashad, 3 p.m., will be joining this very program for a conversation. It's around a year, like it's about a year after our last conversation, so I think that's actually good timing. Because the last time we talked, it was right before this conflict kicked off. Right in the days leading up to it. So I think it'll be really interesting to catch up with Vijay again this Friday at 3 p.m. and talk about how things have played out in Russia and Ukraine since that time. So mark your calendars. That's going to be going on this Friday. TRRS, Vijay Prashad, friend of the stream, elite member of the Friendship Triangle, Vijay Prashad, will be returning guest. Please follow up about Gaucho. I will try to do that, Carrier Wave. I'm definitely going to ask him about Avatar: The Way of Water as well. And certainly there's some, like, we're going to talk about this weapons transfer, another in the endless weapons transfers to Ukraine, and this road to World War III and all these subjects. I'm sure that there's a good video that we can watch coming up next. Again, the stream got started late today because of my internet problems. But folks, while we're on that subject, while we're talking about Vijay Prashad returning to this program, I have to remind you, please, if you enjoy this program, if you have found that this community has been a source of comfort to you over this last 2 years, during this massive propaganda push, during this potentially unmovable path towards World War III and global conflict, if that has been a source of comfort for you, if you've found something helpful about being part of this community or this content in that time, I encourage you to please subscribe to the program. It costs $5 per month. Get all the emotes. Help keep this content on the air. It's very, very helpful. It allows me to continue to do this show, and which is hopefully going to grow this year and include more people and get more people involved in our movement and get more people tuned into our message here. The only way it happens is through the incredibly generous subscriptions and support of our wonderful community members. So if you can, folks, before we move on, it's almost 3 p.m. I only have about another hour max of the stream today, so I gotta try and make number go up a little bit more, and then we can continue. But please, again, if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the program, go ahead and smash the subscribe button if you can. And for our very friendly, generous 10 sub gifters, which we get sometimes,
you can count on me. You're
plays the brand new emote
to talk you through all this.
Plays the brand new emote, the 10 sub gift emote. You know,
you've just become an elite member of
goodness.
The Friendship Triangle.
Oh goodness! Everyone's favorite new alert. The Vijay Prashad featuring 10 gift sub alert. Very wonderful. Comrade Social Distancing, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. Thank you so much for all the support over the years. It's been absolutely essential to keeping this program on the air. So thank you. And thank you, Top Scruffy, as well, for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Top Scruffy. Very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. Thank you.
You've just become an elite member of
goodness.
The Friendship Triangle.
King Window as well. King Window, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs as well. Also, as your support has been totally essential as well, King Window. It really helped me get this stream going, get it off the ground, and I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, King Uendo. Very kind of you. Again, just endlessly thankful to the extremely generous people that have made up this community that has allowed me to create this kind of content, allowed me to put this commentary out there, you know. Endlessly thankful for everyone that's contributed to that. 400 subs from King Window. Unbelievable. The Rob rises. That's right. TRRS rising. And by the way, I don't know if Old Dutch is watching, but I did check the Korean in our new merch. And I think it's good. I think it's good that what you put is good, according to the people that I asked about it. So I think we're good to go with that merch. The new TRRS Friendship Triangle Meetup merch, which is just tremendous. It's just spectacular. It's so fucking good. I'm looking forward to launching that. You know what I should do? You know what I should do? I should, when I talk to VJ, I'll get his address and I will send VJ a complimentary I survived the Friendship Triangle meetup in the Ryugyong Hotel t-shirt. He loves his t-shirts. Right? This man loves his t-shirts. Maybe we can get him wearing that. I wish I could gift a sub, but I'm broke. That's all right, Gaming Lizard. I appreciate the thought anyways. I know it's always the awkward thing about doing these kind of segments when I try to crack the whip. I understand that not everyone can contribute. Not everyone has the disposable income to help keep the stream on the air. But, I believe me, I appreciate everyone that tunes in and everyone that's part of the community, regardless of what level you're able to contribute. Some people I appreciate more, okay? That's how the Friendship Triangle works. It is a tiered reward system. It is Twitch's only two-dimensional friendship access and tiered clout, trickle-down clout tiered reward system. Fuck. It is. So naturally there are people that are up in the different tiers, and that's okay. That's fine. I appreciate everyone that's part of the community, though. Even the lowly non-subscribers. Even the lowly, pathetic non-subscribers. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. That's just a joke.
You can count on
That's
me
just a joke.
and have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Anonymous Gifter. Thank you very much. Once again, our most Christ-like of sub gifters. Anonymous Gifter. Thank you for the sub to I'm a Gaming Lizard. I'll sub as soon as I have money. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it. And again, if you're not aware of this, some people don't know this, but if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to this channel in 100% free. 100% free of charge. Are Twitch bits still a thing? Yes, we call them friend coin around these parts. The friend coin, the gifts of friend coin are always much appreciated as well. Wow, you just called non-subs a joke. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Lucid's daily scam time. Sometimes I do the whole pitch where I show the whole the triangle diagram. I mean, that's like, I've been trying to move away from that a little bit because sometimes I just have these moments
use the computer to
where,
mark up the size of the account.
Oh, thank you, Earth to Skelly. Thank you for the 100 friend coin. I actually did that dance the other day again in better definition. I'm thinking about upgrading that alert to the new version. An even better dancing emote to put on there. So I'm going to try to find a video that we can talk about with Ukraine and these weapons transfers. I'll check out breakthrough news. I'll check out our normal spots for this kinds of video content. And in the meantime, if anyone else wants to subscribe to this channel, once again, you have a few more minutes while we're doing this. A few more precious moments to subscribe. You know, it's also probably worth it. I feel like I shouldn't have had this music going the entire time I've been doing this commentary.
We simply
I don't know.
use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Oh, goodness. M. Leash. Thank you very much for the 500 friend coin. M. Leash, very kind of you. Thank you. I guess one thing we can do while we're kind of having this discourse through, while we're talking about this road to World War III, is look at the way mainstream media is reporting on these tanks. You know, CBC has been a central part of this, and Canada in general has been a central part of this campaign to promote this very reactionary kind of Ukrainian nationalist vision of history, and has promoted this conflict and has completely kind of obfuscated Canada's role in creating the conflict. Here's how CBC is talking about this new tank shipment.
Confirming just minutes ago it will send advanced main battle tanks to Ukraine. And it's giving the okay for other Ukrainian allies like Canada to do that too. Let's bring in Abby Kugadasan with the story. As I said, just breaking, Abby. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will be speaking next hour to the German Parliament. What is the latest and what can we report this hour?
Heather, you know, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba just earlier this month telling a German reporter in an interview that first Germany says no, and then it hesitates, and then it finally says yes. And that's what's happened today. Germany has now said yes to Leopard 2 tank deliveries, yes to allies who wish to re-export these German-built weapons to...
And my understanding as well is like even with this shipment, like they can't come close to matching the amount of equipment that Russia can put into Ukraine. Like this is like they're dropping sand into like an ocean here. Like it's really all just like a money printer to the weapons manufacturers, all right? But like the idea that this is going to be some meaningful shift that's going to allow them to like win has always been preposterous. It's been preposterous from moment one. This idea that, oh, the next weapons shipment, that's what's going to put them over the edge. It's what, you know, the next town they're able to retake, the next little victory that we're able to spin, the next infrastructure that's bombed. That's going to be the thing that's going to put them on the path to victory. When this, I don't think that path has ever really been even an option. You know, the idea of them winning, as Hillary Clinton herself outlined early on in this conflict, talking about likening it to Afghanistan. You know. They want it to be an extended, protracted quagmire. That's what they're expecting. They're not expecting it to be this simple process of giving them the weapons they need to defeat Russia. They know it's going to be this long-term process or project. They're very well aware of this. The idea that this is going to be the thing that's going to swing the balance and allow Ukraine to win has just never been true.
Kyiv, and yes to sending 14 from its own stockpile, an unprecedented announcement from a country that was reluctant to send any weapons at all to Ukraine at the start of this invasion last year. But the pressure has been immense, especially in recent days. Some analysts say Scholz waited and waited, but got exactly what he wanted, that Germany doesn't take this drastic step of sending offensive weapons alone. It appears he's managed to secure Washington's pledge to send M1 Abrams tanks as
are
well.
fast now.
But other
They're
analysts
fast
like
now.
Marina Myron say Scholz had to give the green light with or without the Americans because the chancellor simply had no other option.
Scholz also
Again,
didn't
no
want to
ominous
take the blame
historical parallels there.
right now. Scholz also
Chancellor simply had
No ominous historical parallels there,
option.
especially considering these tanks are going to literal
Scholz
Nazis.
also didn't want to take the
These
blame
German
because
tanks are going to be
right
operated
now,
by
all the
literal,
scenarios
actual
revolve
Nazis.
around some theory of
Or
victory for
at the very least, people that are directly linked to the ideological project of these Ukrainian nationalists that fought the Soviets in World War II and helped carry out the Holocaust. Right? That's the whole thing about the fascists in Ukraine conversation. It's like, it's not just about Azov Battalion. It's like, it's about that idea. It's about the Banderites, like the Banderite ideology. This is the version of history. It's a very revisionist version of history that they preach about, and upholding these fucking monsters that perpetrated the Holocaust. These nationalists, these anti-Soviet nationalists who helped carry out the Holocaust. Like, these are the people who, it's not just about one small, like, it's not just about one militia group. These are the people who are having streets and plazas named after them in this country. You know, they're taking away all the statues of all the heroes, all the heroes that defended Ukraine from fascism and correctly and bravely fought on the side of the Red Army. All that influence is being stripped away to replace it with this Banderite, fascist, right-wing Ukrainian nationalist ideology. It's not just about Azov Battalion. This is what the whole project is about. Canada's been part about. This is what Chrystia Freeland is part of. This is what we're engaged in building here. This extremely reactionary ideological project. It's not just about one militia group. But now you have Germany sending tanks that are going to be piloted by these, fascists, by these actual Nazis. No troubling historical parallels there. When we talk about our road to this kind of global conflict, fighting Russia, fighting Russia while the West sits back and cheers it on because their real enemy is being fought by their de facto ally. No troubling historical parallels there. When you talk about this road to World War III, it's like poetry. It rhymes. That's right.
Ukraine. But what if it doesn't happen?
But again, all our liberal friends, all our anarchists, all our social democrats, left communists, they all think this is wonderful.
History as somebody who sold democracy, who prevented democracy from being saved.
Now, the Chancellor feared escalating the conflict. We've heard that from NATO officials in the last 11 months as well. And this morning, the Kremlin, in the last hour, spokesperson Dmitry Peskov expressing alarm over these decisions. Scholz has been concerned, as I just said, about escalating the conflict as Moscow has dangled the threat of a nuclear potential conflict. And we will hear from the German Chancellor in the next hour. He's set to address the German parliament, and certainly we'll be talking about this decision, Heather.
We will, and thank you very much, Abby, with the breaking news from London. So that German announcement, as Abby was saying, expected to be followed by the United States, making the same momentous announcement as early as today, promising its own advanced battle tanks to Ukraine. The U.S. is expected today to announce it will send M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Now, that is considered one of the most advanced battlefield weapons in the world. Washington is expected to pledge 30 of the Abrams tanks, but U.S. officials caution they won't reach Ukraine in time for an expected spring offensive.
Germany has confirmed it will send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine and allow other countries to do the same. Chancellor Scholz telling his cabinet this morning.
It's crazy that the leaders of the Ukrainian Socialist Party have been political prisoners in their own country the entire time this has been going on, and the left party's all banned, and no one says a thing. No, in fact, what we hear is from people say, like, all the leftists I know in Ukraine are all fighting on the front lines, fighting the Russians, fighting with Azov Battalion, fighting against the imperialist Russian invasion, when they've literally banned socialists from participating in the electoral process. And again, anyone in Ukraine, like, this is not a country that has like lockstep opinion about these things. Anyone in Ukraine that has not supported this provocation, and that are ethnically Russian, that do support having nuance about this, they get tied to telephone poles and beaten and assaulted and called Russian sympathizers. Even like journalists from the Donbass that are reporting on this, that are, lo and behold, from the Donbass, doing journalism that promotes and supports the viewpoint of the people that live in that region, and they get called Russian sympathizers, and liberals are like, oh, it's okay to shoot them, it's okay to murder them. Didn't they burn a building full of anarchists in Odessa? Yeah, a trade union building. In the CIA-sponsored coup, which John McCain was there. Again, folks, we have people on the left saying, like, of course the Maidan wasn't a coup. That was just a beautiful moment of democracy in action and the people rising up. And you have John McCain literally there being like, yes, good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing what we need you to do. And people can't see what's going on. People have a hard time understanding the situation. What's so hard to understand? This has been the thing that has driven me crazy this whole last year about this. What is so hard to understand? You know, it's very clear what's going on here. Why are you on the left and you're standing with NATO and John McCain? Look around and see who your allies are on this one. Yeah, I think it was the leader of Right Sector who said if they hadn't taken over Maidan, it would have become a gay pride parade. Yeah, we've seen these people in the months leading up to this be open and honest about this, and it's still like Russian propaganda to admit this. You know, it's just preposterous. You know, it's very silly. The attitude of us Germans toward Russian is summarized in this joke. An Irishman has been bayoneted by a British soldier, and as the Mick dies slowly in a ditch, the Brit kicks him over and over, cursing him and wishing him a painful, slow death. With his last breath, the Irishman asks, "Why are you so angry at us?" The Brit leans down, whispers, "You swine. We'll never forgive you for what we've done to you." That's good. And you can apply that to Israel, Palestine. You can apply it to any number of these kind of imperialist conflicts, can't you? You know, but folks, that's been my frustration about this over the last year. Just people refusing to see the writing on the wall about what's going on here. And people are so confused. People are so ideologically confused. I was talking earlier, an hour or whatever ago about the Soviet Union and Stalinism and all that stuff and how ideologically confused people are. And it's the same thing with this. Or indigenous people in Canada, that's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Wasn't it Zhukov who said that the USSR liberated Germany from Nazis, and for that they'll never be forgiven? Yeah, that's a great one as well. I mean, it's this, and we're seeing the same. It's the same conflict, and Russia's taken on a different, more reactionary position now, but it's still the same conflict. You know, this is one of the things as well when we talk. That's tricky when we talk about this, and talking about this like anti-Western alliance that's popped up. It's clawing back power from this global the Western hegemony, like we've been talking about. It's led by China, but obviously Russia's a big part of it. And people say, how can you be on the left and support Russia when they're reactionary in this way? They're not socialist. They do X and Y. And you can point out a number of ways that Russia is a fucking nasty place that engages in a lot of stuff that I want nothing to do with and don't agree with. This is the kind of ugly reality, though. Like this is who we're left with. Like this is who we've got. What I would prefer personally as a Western socialist would be for the Soviet Union to still exist and for the Soviet Union to be still fighting to build socialism in Ukraine and elsewhere. Unfortunately, though, that option was taken off the table by imperialists who, through decades of subterfuge and the arms race and proxy wars through decades just slowly destroyed this system and strangled it. And once Stalin was gone, that was like the death knell for the Soviet Union as it slipped into revisionism and led to collapse in the 1990s. I would prefer to have a strong Soviet Union as part of this global anti-imperialist alliance. Unfortunately, this is what we have to work with. If you're a Western anti-imperialist, this is what you have to work with. You've got China leading this global movement. You've got this transition, this de-dollarization process. You've got these geopolitical shifts, and Russia's a part of that. And even though Russia is capitalist and it is reactionary in many ways, this is the Russia that's been created through decades and decades and arguably centuries of imperialist meddling. So it's like that's just what we have to deal with. That's what we have to work with. I think it's more than just Stalin dying, but a lot of the like-minded people that supported the movement Stalin led died during the Great Patriotic War. Yeah. Imagine understanding historical and dialectical materialism. Not enough people really do, Sam. That's why they don't want you reading that shit. That's why anarchists tell you that reading is like giving them homework and is authoritarian. or what do they say? Our left communist friends. Like reading is just these literacy, focusing on literacy programs in the global south is just a way to get the socialist propaganda to these peasants, and that's how you get them within your socialist colonialism or whatever they say about it. That's why they say that. It's more of a back-to-back relationship than shoulder-to-shoulder. I mean, this is the contradiction that we just kind of have to accept. I know it makes people very uncomfortable. We got to do it, though. The place where he was born and raised. Oh, man. Constant sorrow. I seen trouble all my days. I bid farewell to old Kentucky, the place where I was born and raised. The place where he was born and raised. Okay. So that's been stuck in my head for days, that song. And no one's going to try and rickroll me or whatever it is. I don't want to hear any more rickrolling. Okay? Yeah, I think it's from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. That's right. If Uncle Sam was fighting the devil, then I'd be on the side of Satan. This is what I've been trying to instill in people, Sam. I know you get this, I tweeted that Kwame Ture quote out, in the week leading up to this invasion, and I still stand by it. I still think that's what are the quotes that we need to keep in mind, right? We heard that Mao quote today. We're against it with this great conflict. We're against it, but we won't be afraid of it. Che Guevara, never trust the imperialists, not even for a moment. That's an important one as well. And yeah, Kwame Ture. If American imperialism is fighting the devil, I'm on the side of the devil. These are all things we got to keep in mind. We can't lose sight of these basic lessons. But talk about this road to global conflict, and really, Aaron Good is another guy I got to get on this program again. But here's what Lavrov is saying about this. Well, if we think we were scaremongering or talking about the idea of how far away this is, here's what Lavrov is saying. Moscow's adversaries, and so again, this is one of those situations. You might not like Russia, you might not like Putin or Lavrov or any of the people that are involved in this government. You might not like them, but this is one of these tell me when I'm telling lies situations. Let's read this quote from Lavrov and try and pick out the lies, shall we? Moscow's adversaries have long aimed to destroy everything Russian, the FM has said. Says the current situation in Ukraine demonstrates that the conflict between Russia and the West can no longer be defined as a hybrid war, but is instead approaching becoming a real one. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Monday. And again, when you've got Germany sending tanks to Ukraine for Ukrainians to fight to kill Russians, and you've got NATO pumping arms into the country that are being used to shoot at Russians, and you've got them supplying the arms that shell these communities in the Donbass, how is that even a hybrid war at any point? It's barely even a proxy war at that point, right? These countries, these Western countries, are openly engaging in the conflict. They're just doing it through these proxies. But it's like a globally understood phenomenon that we're contributing the weapons and the training for this struggle. Ukraine is like a de facto NATO member. The claiming that we're not involved in this conflict is so much of a thin excuse at this point. We obviously are. Anyway, he says, speaking at a press conference following a meeting with his South African counterpart, Naledi Pandor, Lavrov also noted that his almost real war was something that the West has been preparing for a long time against Russia. The minister claimed that Western powers are seeking to destroy everything Russian, from the language to the culture, that has existed in Ukraine for centuries, even forbidding people from speaking their native language. That's not, you don't have to like Russia or Putin or Lavrov. There's no lies detected there. That is indeed what has been happening. That is indeed what has been happening in Ukraine for a long time. And again, it's like I keep saying this, but it's just, that's one of the ultimate tragedies. This beautiful tradition of Ukrainians who bravely, correctly fought alongside the Red Army to defeat fascism, to build socialism in Ukraine, to build a better standard of living for everyone in Ukraine, for everyone around the world who are part of this incredible, inspiring project. And how that's been completely wiped out. It's just been completely erased. And this conflict has been the kind of like finishing touches on that, where every semblance of this beautiful tradition have just been stripped away and replaced with these absolute, these reactionary, fascist murderers and fucking thugs like Bandera. That's what's replaced this incredible, beautiful tradition, and has given people, as I've said many times, the incorrect idea that Ukraine is filled with fascists and Nazis, or that's what its history is. It's not. It's not its history whatsoever. But that's we've been engaging in building this Ukrainian nationalist project and this revisionist version of history. You know, that's Christy, like I was saying, that's Chrystia Freeland's life work. That she picked up the baton from her grandfather. That's what it's been about. Replacing that Soviet tradition with the reactionary, pro-Nazi Ukrainian nationalist tradition. You know, it's sad. I think it's a real slap in the face to the millions of people in Ukraine that bled and fought and worked and struggled to be part of this project. You know, it's just spitting on all their fucking graves. Man, this is 40 whole minutes. I don't think we have time for it. I would like to see a short version of this Brian Berletic video. Maybe we can save that for tomorrow. Again, I'm running a little low on time because I got started late today. I got to say one thing. Don't look at my YouTube recommendations. Don't look at my YouTube recommendations. I must say that with this camera, I know there's different like variations of like pixels or whatever it is, resolution. I think the lighting situation is way better though. The lighting situation is way, way better. And it has dealt with the shifting lighting from the natural light to the more evening light throughout the day, has handled it very expertly. The colors look good. The bisexual lighting looks good. I'm pretty happy with this purchase. Look at all the pores. The trick is that Russia is obviously bad and shouldn't have invaded, and liberals pretend that if you acknowledge both of these, you have to pretend that millions of dead Ukrainians are better than letting Russia get anything out of this that they didn't have before. I mean, we talk about Korea so much as well, and the Korean War is another. It's the exact same reasoning, right? That's how we justify the genocidally violent campaign of repression and murder, mass murder we carried out in Korea. Well, they invaded, right? They invaded, so we had to do what we had to do. It's the exact same justification. Well, why did they invade though? They were kind of provoked. If you actually look at the historical consequences of that, the historical and materialist reality of that, they were provoked into invading, and then that invasion was used as a pretext to escalate this conflict into the fucking orgy of brutal violence that it became. There's other videos to watch, but it's just really tricky right now because I'm running low on time. Is Multipolarista now geopolitical economy report? Is that what I'm seeing? Because I know they had some problems on YouTube getting banned and stuff. I love the Multipolarista name as well. Yeah. I missed it as well. Let me just see if there's anything else I have to look at. I gotta go soon, so there's a lot of good video that could go along with like what we've been talking about today, but just don't know if I have the time. So I might have to just punt till tomorrow. See if I can find just like one thing to like tie this all together. Here's something, and again, here's our allies for all our pro-Ukraine, we must arm Ukraine colleagues here on the left, of which there are many. Here are your allies, right? Here's Lindsey Graham. So I'm tired of the shit show surrounding who's going to send tanks and when they're going to send them. Putin is trying to rewrite the map of Europe by force of arms. World order is at stake. They're really spelling it out, folks, and people can't get the basic message.
4 months into this thing, I like the structural path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person.
You know, it's like we say, that's been kind of a saying amongst the people that have our kind of analysis on this. They're going to fight to the last Ukrainian. They're literally very open about this. You know, they've been very, very open about this. And again, Graham and McCain were there in 2016. We'll give you whatever you need. Right to these Azov guys. We'll give you everything you need. We'll give you everything you need. Take the fight to the Russians. Oh, this was good. This is interrupting. Our Bob Ray, the ambassador to the UN, was giving a speech yesterday at the University of Ottawa, and we've got Tamara Lawrence. A brave hero emerged to tell the truth about Canada's role in the NATO proxy war with Russia. And just think about, again, about how this viewpoint has been marginalized so much.
Thank you, man.
Trudeau, Freeland, Anand, and Jolie, stop lying, stop sending weapons, stop NATO, stop the war.
I am telling the truth.
Tell the truth about the war in Ukraine.
I am telling the truth about the war in Ukraine.
You're an expert mediator.
Yeah.
Why aren't you mediating it? Why aren't you using diplomacy? You are Canada's top diplomat at the UN.
Okay.
End the war.
Ma'am, it's okay. Let's just try this. If you,
Canadian weapons are killing people in Ukraine.
You have your right to express your opinion. If you would like to wait, I'll try to provide an answer to your question.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to do that.
You're welcome to ask a question during the question period. Your point of view
And
is
you need
welcome.
to tell the truth. You need to tell the truth about what's going on in Ukraine.
We all do. Thank you very much, ma'am. Really, I think you have to give other people a chance.
Listen to your own academics.
Yeah, look at this rent-a-cop. What the fuck are you going to do?
Who showed that Canada supported the neo-Nazi fascist forces
We did. This has been reported. Okay, this is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a LaRoucheite conspiracy theory to talk about Canada's role in supporting and arming and training these fascist militias. There was reporting on this before the conflict broke out. It's been happening for years. Okay, we know it's been going on. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's fact. It's factual. It's just factual information. And we still can't acknowledge the fact that we contributed to this. We still can't acknowledge the fact that we provoked this. You know, this is the thing I've continued to say over and over again. It's fucking ridiculous that we can't acknowledge this basic reality that we helped provoke it.
Tell the truth.
Sorry, would you mind just coming and talk outside?
Would you mind?
You are supporting the fascist regime of Putin here, who killed Ukrainian kids.
Against Russia and Ukraine. Tell the truth. Tell the truth, Ambassador Ray.
Sorry, miss. Would you mind just going outside, please? No fascism here.
No, Lana, it's not good that the fucking LaRouchites are the ones that have the fucking are getting this analysis out there. It's a disaster. It's a failure that the LaRouchites are the ones that are making this fucking claim. You know? That's a massive failure on our part of the anti-war movement, of the anti-NATO movement. And we have these like weird reactionary cultists are the ones with getting this analysis out there. And then when they go interrupt people like AOC who's voted just time and time again to continue funneling arms into Ukraine. And then instead of like answering that or having any actual response to it, they say, oh, they're these LaRouchite cultists. And that's the only thing they have to say. That's how it gets shut down. You know, it's fucking sad.
Go to your Russia. Go to Putin.
End the war.
Yes.
Stop sending weapons.
I think you got them.
End the war.
Would you mind just leaving?
Why?
Yes. Can
Why?
I speak to you outside, please?
I swear it's controlled oppo. Well, LaRouche himself, like, didn't LaRouche have links to the CIA? Isn't that like a CIA link? Isn't that like a factual thing? There were links between the LaRouchites and the intelligence community? Am I crazy about that? And yeah, of course, you have these prominent like MAGA communists and who are just basically LaRouchites that just pop up and have these massive platforms and clearly have some kind of financing. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's always the fascists in the audience of these things that get me. It's real banality of evil type shit, isn't there? There's plenty of left-wing groups who are holding it down. Code Pink, yeah, they've been great on this. PSL, Answer Coalition, the DSA International Committee. It's amazing seeing discourse around the International Committee. And it's like, this is the branch of DSA that actually has good and unapologetic, forceful anti-imperialist analysis. And you have people in DSA being like, oh, I can't stand these guys. They're just like widely hated inside their own fucking movement and their own organization. You know? Jackson Hinkle really came out of nowhere last year. He came out of nowhere, but do you know where he got it? He got it started as part of the whole, like, the Parkland. What was there? The anti-gun movement? You know, he showed up to like their like leadership training program as a young person and was on the Bernie movement and then became like, oh, I'm a Marxist, anti-imperialist. And now he's doing this like manosphere chauvinist thing. It's so fucking bizarre. Yeah, credit to Eve Engler for doing this shit as well.
You're lying. You know it.
Why is that the answer?
Eve Engler, I think, from my understanding, a somewhat problematic figure, but you got to give him credit for doing this stuff. No one else is fucking doing it. No one else is doing it, so you got to give him credit for doing this.
Mr. Ray, you're lying. You know it. You're using Ukraine as a proxy to weaken Russia. No, I'm not. You don't care about international law. At the United Nations, just recently, you voted against multiple resolutions upholding international law, upholding Palestinian rights. You voted against a resolution condemning neo-Nazism. You voted against a resolution supporting the Treaty on the Prohibition
I don't want to get into the stuff about Engler.
You voted against a resolution calling for a more just economic global order. On Haiti, Mr. Ray, you're propping up an unelected unpopular, unconstitutional leader that was appointed by the Canadian and U.S.-led core group. Mr. Ray, you supported the overthrow of Haiti's elected government in 2004. Is that true? Mr. Ray, is that true? Did you support the overthrow of Aristide's government in 2004?
Excuse me, sir.
Where's the lie?
Did you support the overthrow of elected government in Haiti in 2004?
Where's the lie?
Yes, you did. You're on the public record doing it. At least have some honesty. At least have some honesty.
Sir?
Supporting ousting Aristide. Yes, you are on the public record.
Sir, excuse me.
Your support.
Do we have free speech?
What's the justification for Ariel Henry?
Excuse
What's his
me,
legitimacy? What's his legitimacy, Mr. Ray? Why is it up to you to decide what happens in Haiti? Why is it up to you to decide what happens in Haiti?
Excuse me, sir.
Canada ousted the government in 2004. We appointed the PHTK in 2010, Michel Martelly.
Sir.
Did we do that? Is that recent history?
Excuse me, sir.
Are we sending weapons? Are we sending weapons to support a police propping up an unconstitutional, unelected leader?
Sir,
is that happening right now?
Excuse me, sir. I'm talking
No, it's all about the horrors of Russia, right? Yeah, what Russia is doing is horrible. What Canadian imperialism is doing is what Canadian imperialism is doing is more horrible.
I'm asking
That's
you
the
to
reality.
leave from the back.
Canadian
Thank you very
imperialism.
much.
You supported the war in Afghanistan,
Sir,
in Libya.
I'm asking you
You
to
supported
leave
all
right
those
now.
wars.
Thank you very
Right?
much.
You support the U.S. Empire.
He did.
Wherever U.S. Empire does, whatever the U.S. Empire
He did.
wants to do.
Thank you.
Shame on you.
Thank you.
Free Palestine.
Here's the golden boy himself. Here's the golden boy himself. Thank you, M. Leash. The golden boy himself got the big propaganda media tour for the last year. Talking to U.S. corporate lobby group.
We are defending freedom and property, thanks to the leadership of the United States of America, which has consolidated the world in defense of freedom. We see how to win this battle. Together, we'll be able to start the difficult work of rebuilding Ukraine, our cities, our economy, our infrastructure. It is already clear that
totally like
this will be the largest economic
tax haven, basically,
in Europe.
With no social services, austerity, no labor protections, no trade unions.
That will once again push forward global economic growth. We have already managed.
We can be a cog. We're going to be a loyal cog in the global
giants of the international financial
economic cartel led by the U.S.
world, as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs. Such American brands as Starlink,
there's your allies.
Westinghouse have
That's
already become part
with
of our Ukrainian way. Your brilliant defense systems, such as HIMARS or Bradleys, are already uniting our history of freedom with your enterprises. We are waiting for Patriots. We are looking closely at Abrams. Thousands of such examples are possible. And everyone can become a big business by working with Ukraine.
Is this clear enough to everybody? Like, what's the holdup?
From weapons
where's the disconnect?
And defense to construction, from communication to agriculture, from transport to IT, from
For
banks
sure, it's just
to
an investment
medicine.
pitch.
And I believe that freedom must always win. And I invite you to work with us right now.
There we go. Like, what fucking more do you want? What more do you want? And there's this as well. Ignoring German polls and risk of escalation, the U.S. has convinced Germany to send Leopard tanks to Ukraine. This is a victory for what Stratford founder George Friedman described in 2015 as the U.S. primordial interest, severing the relationship between Germany and Russia. And again, this is what it's always been about, right? It's about the American weapons companies profiting. It's about the American energy companies. Get Germany off of Russian gas. Get France off of Russian gas. Get them onto more expensive fracked gas from American fracking companies. That's what this is about. It's not about freedom and democracy and authoritarianism and all that nonsense, you know? And these people have been very clear about this. It's not a secret.
So, the primordial interest of the United States, over which for a century we have fought wars, the First, Second Cold War, has been the relationship between Germany and Russia.
And people say, when you say this is all part of the conflict, the same conflict, people scoff at you. When Lavrov himself says they've been trying to destroy Russia for centuries, and we say, oh, he's doing Russian propaganda, they'll openly fucking admit this. They admit it's all part of the same project that's been going on for decades. They're very open about this, open and honest about it.
Because
it's not a conspiracy.
They're the only force that could threaten us, and to make sure that that doesn't happen. Therefore, it's not an accident that General Hodges, who's been appointed to be blamed for all of this, is talking about prepositioning troops in Romania.
For sure, the Chicago
Bulgaria,
Council on Global Affairs is so
Poland,
sinister sounding.
The Baltics. This is the intermarium, from the Black Sea.
They know they can be honest because they know no one's going to challenge them about it. Nope.
Pilsudski dreamt of. This is the solution for the United States. The issue to which we don't have the answer is what will Germany do? So the real wild card in Europe is that as the United States builds this cordon sanitaire, not in Ukraine, but to the west, and the Russians try to figure out how to leverage the Ukrainians out, we don't know the German position.
Yeah, they're disengaged, or they just believe that Russians are subhuman. Totally.
Position. It's former.
You saw the image of again, I was talking about that journalist from the Donbass that was shot at. And people are just celebrating it. People celebrating it. You're literally like, even if you're from that region, you're not allowed to hold the viewpoint that like this was provoked, that Russia has any merit whatsoever in engaging in this conflict. You're not allowed to hold that viewpoint, or they say you deserve to die. You deserve to get shot. You know, it's incredibly fucked up.
Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder is on the board of Gazprom. They have a very complex relationship to the Russians. The Germans themselves don't know what to do. They must export. The Russians can't take up the export. On the other hand, if they lose the free trade zone,
they kind of do sound like tankies.
They need to build something different. For the United States, the primordial fear is Russian capital, Russian technology, German technology and German capital, Russian natural resources, Russian manpower as the only combination.
Can't remember where I heard the quote, but it was some JFK researcher or something of effect regarding conspiratorial thinking. Just go to the Library of Congress and read the files there. They read like a movie. Nothing hidden about this, for sure. But they also do. They have their legions of cranks or whatever that they use to turn these and spin these into like, wacky conspiracies, right? When it comes to any of these deep political events, the Kennedy assassination, Nixon, Watergate, 9/11. When you have a bunch of cranks out there saying all kinds of wacky stuff about it, it becomes very easy to take any criticism or any critical analysis whatsoever and cordon it off in that direction, right? One more time.
Your fight is our
people
fight.
Have seen this. 2016. Can you watch this video and still say like, "Oh, this was not provoked. This is not an imperialist war." No, the U.S. and Canada had nothing to do with this. Can you really watch this clip and continue to hold that belief?
Your fight is our fight.
They're very clear about this.
2017 will be the year of offense. All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Again, if you support this conflict, you support the endless arms sales to Ukraine. These are
Enough
your
of a Russian
This is who you're with. These are your guys.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
I think just to sum up, again, we should take a look at this quote again. Are we on the road to World War III? I feel like we are sometimes. Yeah, like I was mentioning earlier, I think it's kind of, no matter what advocacy we have or what positions we're going to take on this, I think it's inevitable, this kind of global conflict. If you view multipolarity and this global power shift as being inevitable, then World War III is inevitable. I think these two things are completely inseparable from one another. But as Mao instructed us, okay, when it comes to this question of World War III, well, as Mao said, our attitude on this question is the same as our attitude towards any disturbance. First, we're against it. Second, we are not afraid of it. So I think we gotta continue to keep that in mind as we continue walking down this path. We keep following this path towards like escalation and global conflict. Let's keep that in mind. John McCain saying out loud the positions held by leftist influencers now. I don't know, Biggerwig. I don't know. Can I have a crumb of fear as a treat? Maybe just a small crumb. A small crumb of fear. I do have to go soon, folks. I know it was a shorter stream today. Again, I was having problems with my internet connection. It took me a long time to fix it. But I do have to go soon. It's getting close to 4. I'll just make one final push. You know, if you do like this program and you want to support this content, you want to help keep it on the air, please subscribe. I probably won't get to the sub goal today. It's a shorter stream. That's okay. But if we got a few more people that are willing to support the content and support the community, or want to gift subs or friend coin or any of that good stuff, or you can tip as well using the tip command in the chat, what have you. If there's anyone else that wants to subscribe to this content, it's very, very helpful, much appreciated. It helps me out a lot. It helps keep this community together. And every little bit helps. So it's my one final, it's kind of a half-hearted push for more subs. A little bit half-hearted. I think it's normal to be afraid, but you can't nurse your fear, because if you do, it'll lead to doomerism and retreat. Again, that's the central part of that Mao quote. And you know what? I would actually encourage anyone to read this entire chapter on War and Peace from Mao. It's really good stuff. Mao's writing is so great too, even though I've seen dumbasses like in the West criticize Mao for being too readable, but writing revolutionary theory that was meant to be understood by people who were illiterate at one point and were just learning to read and just learning to understand these concepts. Really, really readable and really good stuff. I would really recommend anyone read this. But yeah, like Lana was saying, and like Lana and Mao are both saying, I often mention these two people in the same sentence. You know, yeah, you can be afraid, but don't let it turn into doomerism and despair. And we need to take the Mao line on this, which is that I'll read it one more time. If the imperialists insist on launching a third world war, it's certain that several hundred million more will turn to socialism. Then there will not be much room left on earth for the imperialists. And the most important point here, it is also likely that the whole structure of imperialism will utterly collapse. That's what we need to hold on to. You know, no doomerism. That's revolutionary optimism, right? We can acknowledge that this conflict might be unavoidable. We can acknowledge that we might be on this path and we might not be able to get off this path. But we have to understand that no matter how hard it is, you know, no matter how brutal things get, that's what we're working towards. And this kind of global conflict, as scary as it is, might be the catalyst for the whole structure of imperialism to completely collapse. Some philosophers and theoreticians have no courtesy toward the people reading them. Yeah, I think it's like when you haven't read theory, you get this idea that it is really academic or impossible to understand. It's really not at all. That's why it's like important to read Mao. That's why it's important to read Stalin as well, and Lenin, you know, and Marx. All these guys were interesting people and thinkers and good writers and able to articulate these concepts in really easy to understand ways. Oh. Getting kind of sore. Been sitting here this whole time. Going back to stream chit chat, I am quite happy with this camera though. I think this was a good purchase. I feel good about my setup right now. I think I'm looking pretty professional. Parenti also very readable for sure. Yeah. Need a sit stand desk. The thing is, I got fucked up feet and legs though. I couldn't stand, like even if I had shoes on or whatever, I could not stand for 4 hours and do this stream. The kids today are saying profesh. Wow. Everything changes all the time. Kwame's right. What may look impossible today may look doable tomorrow. As we said before, as I said earlier, our boy Lenin was hanging out in like Switzerland in 1917 being like, this shit's never going to happen. I mean, we were never going to live to see any kind of revolution in Russia. And like literally right before the stuff was starting to kick off, these massive historical currents were starting to kick off. So I'm going to spend my whole inheritance on lava lamps. I think that is a good idea. Yeah. I'm feeling like I should, just in terms of my setup here. I think it would be cool to have some kind of poster here, or even maybe having one of those like neon things, one of those like neon signs or whatever. Those are fun. Those are cool. That could look kind of cool. That feels like Steven Crowder. Oh. But I'm like the good Steven Crowder. No, I'm not. I'm not in any way like Steven Crowder. That's not going to be a thing. So no takers on the whole. I know the last sub pitch there was a little half-hearted. I was maybe expecting maybe just a couple to roll in, but it's not like I'm counting. Who cares really? Who cares? It was a shorter stream today. I'll try to come back tomorrow for longer.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Fart Party 69. Fart Party 69, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. One of our truly valued, treasured community members. Fart Party 69. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Very, very, very kind of you. Thank you.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Dr. Maggot, as well, for the gifted sub. Authoritarian not counting. Yeah, right. See you in heaven, suckers. Thanks, Dr. Maggot. Thank you for that. I'll try to make up the discrepancy tomorrow. And again, Friday, we got Vijay Prashad. Friday, 3 p.m., Vijay Prashad will be returning. Will be making his triumphant return to TRRS, so make sure you stick around for that. We got Vijay Prashad. Wow, Rob. Okay, seriously? Wow. And we love to hear the alert. We love to hear Vijay speak to us in the alert. The highly anticipated return of Vijay. That's right. Man, I really like this camera. This is like a huge difference, I feel. I feel very good about this. May I ask what model you got? It's this. It's the Brio 4K Stream Edition camera. Okay. Thanks again, folks. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't fret. Don't fret. $275. This was actually on sale on Amazon. It was $199 on Amazon. That's why I pulled the trigger. A little bit more with taxes and shipping and all that stuff. But I think worth it. And hey, I can write it off. It's a write-off for me. I just write that shit off. What does that mean exactly? I don't know totally. I just know that it's something that you do. Okay? You just write it off. I should invest in this. I think my camera is okay, but it should be better. I'm noticing a big difference, just in terms of the lighting. I was always having this weird lighting like that as it adjusted to the different lighting levels in the room. I think it looks way smoother now. Thanks again, friends. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Movie night tonight. Fuck. Shit. Movie night tonight. I forgot to mention. Movie night in the TRRS Discord. Wednesday. It's 9 p.m., I believe. 9 p.m. This evening, 9 p.m., we will be watching Ridley Scott's 1978 masterpiece, Alien. We will be watching it in the Discord server this evening. Get in there. If you're not in this Discord server, join it. Be part of that. I'm going to start trying to do more regular movie nights, maybe at least like 2 a month, or maybe even 1 a month is just like an easy something to shoot for off the bat. Although next week I do want to watch Aliens. I would say next Wednesday I would like to watch Aliens. But movie night tonight in the TRRS Discord server, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, one of the all-time great films. So now I'm doing the raid for real. Thanks again, everyone. Give my regards to our pals in Left Flank Vets, Marcus, etc. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll talk to you tonight for the movie, and I'll be back at noon Eastern for another episode of TRRS tomorrow. Goodbye.